You're watching Nevada Business Chronicles. Take a journey with us to see the innovative businesses that put Nevada on the business map. Connecting you with the businesses, events, and organizations that bring innovation and prosperity to the Nevada area, please welcome your host, Mitch Burney. I'd like to introduce you to Stacy Mathewson, and I really want to thank you for taking your time and sharing your story with our community and hopefully our country as well at the same time.
Thank you for having me.
There's tragedy in your life around drugs and alcohol and addiction, and that cost you the life of your son. If you could share with us what that looked like as a parent.
Yes, it was a struggle. My son grew up with a lot of at-risk behaviors. Looking at it now, I can see so many reasons why he was going through the process that he was going through, and but as a parent, I didn't realize it. And so what I'm doing today is really giving my experience as a parent and my son's experience as I saw it as his mother through the difficult times of what was going on inside him and why he chose the path of drugs and alcohol. He eventually did choose the path of drugs and alcohol, and he overdosed 2.5 years ago. I will never forget that call. As a mother, just knowing that inside there, he really had a hard time figuring out how to live that life of sobriety. But there is hope in recovery. There are programs, there are structured steps that you can take. And the more that we put support around that, the more that people will live in recovery and live a wonderful life. And that's what I'm hoping to do, is through Josh's experience in life, tragedy, that really identify those programs so that other people don't lead themselves into no turning back.
As a parent, and I'm sure anyone watching will understand this, none of us can imagine the loss of a child in the throes of addiction. But you, other than just being hurt and angry, have taken action to prevent this from happening to other people.
Yes, it doesn't have to happen to any mother or father or family member, and it hurts so bad. But by taking that emotion and putting it into action with something positive, I feel it's very healing. I really saw from Josh's experience that young people in recovery need that support and need a place where they can learn how to be in recovery and live life to its fullest.
And hopefully what we can do with what you're up to is inspire people to get into recovery that are in the current throes of their addiction, which is really what you're committed to today.
I would love to be able just to open up a view, a camera, and allow someone who's just about ready to go into recovery to look at how beautiful life can be and how their life and others around them will celebrate it with them.
It's going to give me a lot of joy in sharing this next part with our community. You have actually started another program just recently called A Pie in Your Face for Recovery.
Right.
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge, and I always look at these successful fundraisers for diseases like prostate and breast cancer, and it frustrates me that there's not enough fundraisers for addiction. There's just not enough funding to start good research programs, good programs based on research and evidence-based programs. So I'm making an effort to do a Pie in the Face challenge, which is called WipeTheFaceOfAddiction.com. So Darryl Strawberry was just recently in town.
The first Pie in the Face candidate
right.
to wipe the face of addiction.
Hi, this is Darryl Strawberry. I'm a recovering addict, and we just like to say we're having a pie face here, and Stacy's going to put a pie in my face, and you can donate $100. I am challenging Josh Hamilton to do a pie in his face.
We're here with Darryl Strawberry, 4-time Major League Baseball World Series championships. And I want to thank you first for being here with us and coming to Reno.
Well, thanks for having me here. It's great to be here.
If there was one question that you've always wished that were asked that you've been wanting to share about, what would it be?
Well, that's a good one. If it's one question, I probably would want to be asked, what happened to you in your teens? You know, your childhood is very important to learn where the problem is, because that's really where the problem lies. Because we live in these homes and we say we come from, you know, mom and dad's, but, you know, if our house was chaotic, then it was chaotic. It's dysfunction, and there's a lot of things that happen to people's homes behind closed doors that they never talk about because there's shame. And you don't have to be ashamed, and that's the whole thing. You know, that's the way people are able to get well, is getting out of the shame that my house wasn't perfect. My dad was an alcoholic, and you know, he beat me, and that led scars, and that led me to drinking to escape from the pain that was really there, and not dealing with it. It's important that people know that their life is important, even in the midst of addiction. People always ask me, well, how do we help people in addiction? You know how you help people? You love them right where they're at. Because
great advice.
That's the most important thing. Don't try to beat them over the head and say, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. Because a lot of times people did that to me, and I refused it, I rejected it. You know, and you got to kind of love people right where they're at, and find out what's really going on with them and walk with them. You know, don't turn your back. You know, I had some good friends who walked along the road with me. Never turned their back, never questioned me. Even when I was in the midst of my addiction, they loved me right where I was at, and that's what's really important.
In every recovery, there's that moment, that turning point, that point where you actually make the reach out. What happened, and how did yours occur?
Well, the reach out was with my wife. I had a lot of great friends who had spoken into my life, and they dear to me today, and they played a major role in me getting here. But she was a real key to me. She was loving me right where I was at. And
loving you until you could love yourself.
Exactly, and at the same time, she let me go. And that's a reality. She loved me from a distance, but she let me go. And that's the reality that has to take place in someone's life. You know, she didn't tolerate what I was doing, but she loved me at the same time. And that made me open my eyes and see that she really cared about me.
I think this is shifting in our community and across our nation right now. The people that are in the throes of their addiction or alcoholism are considered to be bad people, and nothing could be farther from the truth.
Yeah, there's nothing bad about us. You know, when you get us well, you can see the kind of work and the kind of effort we put in to make a difference. There's nothing bad about us. We've made mistakes, but we're not a mistake. And I think that's what we got to get clear through addiction across America. A message has to come from someone, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring that message, you know, to people so they can understand the importance of not being a mistake, you know, and that's why we have the Darryl Strawberry Recovery Centers. That's why we do what we do there, to train up the kids and get them to understand that you're not a bad person. You have a disease that can be arrested, but you're going to have to do some inner work on yourself to grow into a new person.
I'd like to thank Ron Dock for joining us today as well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
You're very tied to the Strawberry Ministries and have known Darryl for some time. If you wouldn't mind a little bit of that history connection and what happened in your life.
Right. I got addicted to drugs at the age of 18. I was in the service, and I got introduced to my first drug there. I got clean October 5th, 1992, and at that time I started recovering, and I met Darryl Strawberry through the Yankee organization. They hired me to do some interventions on some of the minor league players. So he came across, and we've been tight ever since. And I've been on his road with him ever since. And it's been one of the best times of my life in recovery. I'm a triplet, and my mother had 3 boys at the same time, 2 minutes apart. One OD'd in my mother's bathtub at 19 years old with the needle in his arm. My mother found him. The other one hung himself at 30. So we have a deep history of addiction in the family, and it is a family disease, and everybody's affected by it.
Yeah, everybody is affected by
yes.
it. If you had that one piece of information that might help somebody make that reach out, how did you make yours, and what would you suggest to get them to really finally let their guard down and ask for help?
The thing that happened to me, I had to come to the point of desperation. You know, and I dug a hole so deep, there was only one way to go, deeper, which is being buried or climb out. And I decided to climb out with help with support of doctors, you know, family members, and I got out of that hole. I think, and I heard you mention, what is one of the things I would like someone to talk to me about that was never mentioned, and that's abandonment issues. You know, for me, my father left 5 kids and my mother in the projects. And that affected all of us, you know, severely. You know, and then he would call and say, hey, yo, I'm gonna come over for Christmas and bring some toys, and never did it, you know. So that had a huge effect on me, to the point I started rebelling, you know, and I acted out, and the only way I can act it out was through, when I had a chance with chemicals. And it did what it was supposed to do, stop me from feeling, you know, put me in a false sense of security, reality, everything. And I stayed oblivious to that for years.
What was that moment where you made the reach out, and how did that happen? How did you get there?
Great, I tried to commit suicide, and I jumped in front of a car at October 5th, 1992 at 1:40 in the afternoon. And God has a sense of humor, excuse me. The car I jumped in front of was a police car. So the cops, they handcuffed me, took me into the car, they started to take me to jail. I told them what I did. He turned around and took me to a drug treatment center. And he said, son, man, I need you to get your life together, you know, and I heard him. And I went in and the rest was history.
This is John Lupo, and John also met Daryl through the throes of your addiction.
Correct.
And also had one of the more extreme rises, falls, and re-rises in recovery. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, very similar story to Daryl's story. The fall, the rise, the fall and the rise. I had a bunch of stuff. I was a Wall Street guy, executive for many years, and I was in the depths of addiction for like 15 years. So, you know, God had a plan and purpose for me, and eventually he led Daryl into my life, and Daryl helped me on the spiritual side. I was in the program for about 2 years, but I wanted more in the spiritual side, and God had a plan and placed Daryl in my life, and he started sharing his faith with me, and you know, it set me free.
How would you advise them to make that reach out, to realize that it's okay to ask for help? No shame in that.
There's no embarrassment to ask for help. I think that you know, with nowadays with the drugs being so severe, I think you're one step away from anybody overdosing or dying. So if you have a problem with addiction, you should contact either your community or somebody around your community, or somebody who's in addiction that you will try to get help. But I think it's nowadays you shouldn't be shameful of addiction or what you're going through, because there are a lot of people out there going through the same problems you're going through.
Stacy, when we first met, I'll never forget something you shared with me. It is the single most profound thing that anyone's ever said to me in my life. I will always carry it with me, about the need to act now.
I remember that, and I think what we were talking about was, when do we film this show, and when do we tell this story, and should it be in 6 months or a year? I said, no, we don't have that time to waste. Every single day matters right now in this disease, because that's one more person that could potentially die, and we need to do this now.
And we need to get other people to take that on with us to prevent this treatable disease.
Really, it just takes putting all of that together and then compelling the community to come together and get on board with 1 or 2 or 3 programs and make it happen. And just don't waste time. Do it.
I'm hoping that somebody right now, currently in the throes of their addiction or alcoholism, will hear the love, the intention that's behind that.
And no judgment.
And no judgment, and really reach out and ask for help.
Right.
These are people that really do care
That's right.
in our community, like you.
That's right. It's not perfect. And if you are in your disease, we love you. And if it means that it's not successful in recovery that time, it doesn't matter. You're loved, and you need help, and we're here to help you.
And you have made resources available for that. If you don't mind, can we go visit some of them and let some of the community know where they can contribute, as well as those that are in need, where the resources lie?
I would love to show you and take you on that journey.
Well, let's go.
Let's go.
Tell me a little bit about Northern Nevada Hopes and your contribution to it.
Okay, Northern Nevada Hopes is a sliding scale medical clinic that my husband and I decided to participate in. It's a wellness center, and we asked that they add the addiction component to their curriculum. And in joining their effort, we donated $1.9 million, and really feel as though it's something that's going to be a huge benefit for downtown Reno in serving the underserved.
And those in need of recovery and hope.
That's right. That's right. And so the fact that they're adding addiction to the component is where my heart is, and I'm really glad to be a part of it.
Give me a sense of what's going on here.
Okay, so they have a new building that they built on the other side of the parking lot, 2 buildings on either side that they've allowed us to bring all the addiction treatment, recovery, and the addiction component in these separate buildings.
So a great place for people to know exists that are currently looking for help.
Definitely.
For those in our community that are not familiar with the acronym NRAP, can you describe what that means and how it got its start and how you got involved with it?
Okay, Nevada Recovery and Prevention is a program on UNR's campus started by 2 professors, and one day the president of UNR, who's a good friend of ours, came to the house, mentioned that there was a program that was starting on campus that they were having a hard time getting off the ground. And so I came over and met with the professors, asked them to put in a proposal what it would look like if they could really start a program that they wanted to start. Within a month, I funded that program, and that was nearly 4 years ago.
And since then, there are 100 similar programs around the country that you've also funded or granted.
Right, and based on the success of especially Daniel Fred, who ran the center on campus, he was able to bring nearly 30 students in to the center within just a few months of it opening. And I saw the potential to reach young adults, and the fact that these young adults are learning higher education and operating on a highly functional level. And what a great idea to really inspire adults who are functioning on that high level with higher education to go out into the world and to our communities and teach others about the stigma and reducing the stigma, teaching others about good programs that are necessary for our community.
And thereby creating the ambassadors to recovery throughout our country all at the same time.
Right, and also this program's inspired me to do a national research project to look at what was working and not working across the United States. And from there, we funded 100 sobriety programs with $110,000 grants, in addition to a 3-year mentoring to help get that program on campus, off the ground, and to a place of sustainability.
Sustainability, and coming up even more and more campuses that you're going to be sharing that with. I'm really looking forward to meeting Daniel Fred, the coordinator for the NRAP at UNR.
And Daniel's a very good friend of mine, and I'm looking forward to it as well.
Well, let's meet him. This is Daniel Fred, the coordinator at NRAP, and thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, more than happy to do it. Glad to be a part of such an important show.
Absolutely the most important show we may ever cover, most important topic as well. And just first, so that people can get an idea of your life and your battles with alcohol or drugs, can you tell us a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, I think if I had to define it in one word, hopeless describes it, maybe numb a little bit. I had experienced, looking back, I could see it was caused by some traumatic situations that I didn't know how to deal with. Kind of grew up in a really good home, so it wasn't a dysfunctional family or anything like that, but just had experienced some negative things. And the last one came when I was a freshman here at the university, actually. My roommate had committed suicide, and me and some friends had found him. And that shook me a little bit, that I didn't know how to deal with it. And before that I had partied and I had experimented and tried some different drugs and stuff like that. And I remember it as clear as day. You know, it was about 3 weeks after the incident. And up until then I didn't like being outside. I felt like I kind of experienced this, you know, death at its rawest form. And so I was at a party and I was kind of buzzed and I was outside smoking a cigarette, and it's like I looked around and realized I was outside and didn't have any fear. And it wasn't so much a conscious decision, it was more subconscious, but after that I didn't drink to a buzz. I either drank till I was blacked out, passed out, or throwing up. And it kind of went underlined for a little bit, you know, it didn't, I was in college, so people thought it was kind of part of the college experience, and was able to hide it a little bit. And then I was introduced to, not long after that, to marijuana. And it may sound silly, people who are in the throes of it will get it though. The first time I kind of smoked marijuana, it felt like I was home. You know, it just felt like that peace, and I found I was able to actually sustain that high as often as possible all throughout the day, and was less noticeable than drinking.
I'm guessing that feeling didn't last forever, considering where we're at today.
Right. Yeah, it definitely didn't last forever. And in fact, I can't remember where it switched over. I don't know exactly, but there went a time to where it was fun, to where it didn't work anymore. And being sober felt weird, and I didn't like it, and I had emotions and these things, and I didn't know how to deal with it. So it became kind of an everyday thing.
A trap.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think that describes it perfectly. It was a trap. I couldn't get out then. You know, I got stuck. I couldn't maintain grades. I left UNR with a 1.7 GPA, which they don't like here, I guess. And
Imagine that.
and it's hard to go to classes and different things when your first priority is drugs and alcohol. And so it was relationships. Everything just fell apart. Family, girlfriends, all this stuff fell apart. And I found myself in Texas trying to at least find a piece of me, and just getting further and further lost from who I was.
Thank you for being so candid about the trap
Right.
and your
Right.
life and being stuck with alcohol and drugs and no other options. But the good news is you found hope and you found another way to live life. And so I'd like to maybe flash forward to what life started to offer you once you were able to get help.
Right. You know, when I first decided to get sober, I had called my dad, and it was after a DUI arrest and all this stuff, and was expecting to get yelled at and what's wrong with you, you know. And what he said was, this is not who you are, and you really need to get your destiny back because you have a purpose. And somehow he probably said that more than that time, but that time it stuck with me. And so I decided that this is not the way I want to live, and began to take the steps necessary to get rid of it, and found out about this program at Texas Tech that let in students just like me with bad GPAs,
Wow.
with arrests on their record, convictions, into college for a second start.
Wow.
And so we met with the director, and I'll cut the long story short. The program only let in at the very least 6 months, people who were 6 months sober. I had 2 weeks at the time. And luckily my grandparents were with me, and they cried when she said, you can't get in. And so she changed her mind and said, I'll let you in under one condition. You go to a meeting and some groups with me right now. And so got into that program, first semester in, 3.5 GPA, made the dean's list, and it just continued. So since that day of getting sober, what's happened in my life now, graduated from Texas Tech University on the dean's list, came back to UNR and got my master's
Wow.
at the college where I left with a 1.7 GPA.
Full circle.
A full circle. Married a beautiful wife, I have 3 beautiful girls, and on and on and on. The gifts, you know, we talk about of recovery are more than I can count.
How did you get involved with NRAP, Nevada Recovery and Assistance Program, then?
Well, so what actually happened was I started grad school here and began to have classes on addiction treatment and different things like that, and immediately began talking to the director of the academic program about the model at Tech, and just wanted something like that where I went through and my addiction, and I call it my field research now of addiction, and so wanted to kind of give back, and she grabbed onto it. And Dr. Mary Shadley's been in the field in Reno for 35 years or so, been on the university for a long time and has a lot of connections. And we began to write the program and develop it and then try to find students and we had about 2 students when we met Stacy. And Stacy Mathewson came in and met with the president and the director of our academic program and the director of CASAT. Long story short, she funded us. We started officially on the university with funding in January 2012 with 2 students. And we just graduated this last year. Just to give you an idea, we graduated 12 students. 8 of them are going on to grad school. And so it's been a phenomenal to see how that's worked.
Unbelievable shift in your life from desperation and lack of hope to family, children, and a grad program, and now giving back on a university level to other people that are currently where you used to be. If there's one thing that you would say to somebody watching right now that's currently in the throes of their addiction, I'll ask you to look right in the camera and tell them what that would be that would help them get across that line to reaching out for help.
That's a really good point. I think for me, I say a couple things when I'm talking to people is, one, I've never met anybody who's been sober that says, I wish I didn't get sober. It's always worth it, but the hardest step is that first step. And so what I would tell someone who's struggling, and I know there's people watching right now, listening, either you're struggling or you know somebody is, I just want to tell you, you have purpose. You have a destiny. You have things that you can do, and this is not who you are, and you're not a bad person. You're struggling with an illness that's treatable, and that you can deal with this and you can move past that. And the most difficult step is reaching out. And so I would just encourage you to do that, whether it's calling Doors to Recovery or different organizations that maybe you've heard about today on the television, or other things, to reach out and get that help, because you are worth it. You are absolutely worth it.
Thank you so much for the generosity of your time and what you're giving back to other people.
Right. Thanks, Mitch. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. If you or someone you know needs assistance or to become involved in this program, you can visit doorstorecovery.org. You can also share this with everybody you know by visiting our website, nevadabusinesschronicles.com. Thanks for watching. For more information on this guest or to see this show in its entirety, visit nvbusinesschronicles.com. While you're there, you can watch all of our past shows on the Chronicles page and stay connected with us by following us on our social media. For information on becoming a guest on our show, contact us at info@nvbusinesschronicles.com. We hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week at the same time for more from Nevada Business Chronicles.